Not exactly. It really reinforced a lot of things I've felt already. I talk a lot with the public to begin with, and we're constantly looking for new ways and better ways to communicate back and forth and to learn from them and to figure out better ways of talking to larger groups of people or more effectively transmit what we're learning in the atmospheric sciences. You know, I would put it less resistance and more just knowledge or understanding of what that connection consists of. And you know that you can't be a climatologist without being a meteorologist, and you can't be a meteorologist without being partly a climatologist. So they're kind of one and the same. I feel very comfortable communicating from one end of the spectrum to the other. And you have to kind of try to pick up on who your audience is, what they're interested in. If you're in front of them, take cues from them as to what they seem to be getting and not getting. If you're not in front of them, then you have to do it a different way. But and also, I often adopt the point of view that the people I'm talking to don't agree with various concepts, or might have an alternate view. And so it's not necessarily trying to convince them, it's just more to kind of bring their level of understanding up and maybe approach them in ways that they are more familiar with and more comfortable with, and find points of departure that register with them and work from there out. And I think part of our job as meteorologists and as communicators of weather and climate is to try to figure out where people are right now and work from that.
Well, I think first of all you have to respect their opinions and views, and sort of take off from there, and say, well, okay, I understand, you know, where you're coming from, and then try to see it from their point of view, but yet bring in concepts and ideas that may change the way they view it. So I think having a personal connection with your audience. I mean, if you're giving a talk, you don't have a personal connection immediately, but through your manner of speaking with them, you can maybe develop a rapport, and then try to turn it around a bit and change their views a bit. I mean, you know, I think one of the points that Peggy talked about at the very end, that you know, we all have our personal connections, our family, friends, and acquaintances, and I've found, at least in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm more and more engaging with them, and many of them have very skeptical views about this issue, but I think I've been able to maybe change their opinions a bit, just because, you know, they may trust me as being somebody who's either a relative or a friend.
One of the things, I have 4 brothers, and they often express skepticism to me, or they're hearing so much stuff coming in from every direction, and they're saying, we don't know what to believe. And so I kind of use that as a kind of thing to key off of talking to, as Margaret said in the closing comments, think of your friends and your relatives and your family and so forth, and what would you say to them, and how do you how would you answer them, and how would you even get at the discussion, and how do you come off? I think the issue of respecting the people you're talking to and exhibiting that respect is very, very important, because it keeps them engaged. Once you lose people, that's it. So you got to keep their respect and their engagement all the way along. I have thought about this issue a lot, because the term believe in rather than believe sort of implies a kind of a religious view and all the things that implies. And I generally try to steer clear of such phraseology, because it seems to come with some kind of baggage. And, do you believe in gravitation? Or do you believe in kinetic theory of gases? Or a variety of other kinds of theories. It's like believing in evolution. That's probably the closest analog I can think to climate science. There's many, many aspects of evolution and all the things about it that map over into the discussion of climate change. And I've been lately trying to use what we know about evolution and how people are talking about evolution and so forth as maybe a way into the discussion of climate change or climate. And furthermore, we've gotten to a point where in certain societal circles, using the word climate automatically gets translated into climate change. And climate has been around for eons and ages, and people have talked about it with none of this. So somehow or another, I think we have to figure out a way to back off so that that immediate translation isn't made in the public mind and in our elected senators and representatives and so forth, because that does seem to be, unfortunately, the case.
The use of the word believe has been something that I've actually tried to shift when it has come up. If somebody asks me that, or they say they believe in or don't believe in, I really actively try to separate out the sort of connections with perhaps religious belief or political beliefs or something like that, and say this is not a question of philosophy or religion or whatever. It's a question of scientific fact and where that lies. So it's more a question of do we think something is likely or unlikely? Well, I do think it is true that there's if they trust you, and trust is a much I don't know why I like the word better, but
yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, but that if they trust you, then they will accept, are more likely to accept what you say about this particular subject. So I think, but again, that gets back often to, well, they know you, and maybe they have a personal relationship with you. So it's not just the fact you have a degree or some set of qualifications, but that there's some more connection with you than just that. And then they somehow say, well, okay, he's not one of those. He's a good guy, or whatever it is. And then you say, okay, well, if he thinks that that's true, then maybe I should. Well, if it's not a prior relationship, I think it goes back to if the discussion comes up again, you have a level of respect, or you exhibit a level of respect for them, for where they're coming from. So I think you have to engage them on a positive note first before I think there's an opportunity to perhaps change their ideas on this particular topic.
I think that we have to acknowledge that we have to try to come off and to be as honest as we can with people, and to portray a sense of honesty so that that's where trust comes from. Even if you don't know the whole story, you're honest about that, and you give both sides, and you exhibit an open mind. And this is a two-way street. Open minds need to be everywhere. The scientific process does not work unless minds are open. And the whole issue of doubt and skepticism is at the heart of science, and I don't know if scientists have been very good at talking to the public about that issue. Doubt and skepticism are crucial to science. It doesn't work without that. But really, it's the selective removal of doubt that science is about. It's not creating certainty, it's reducing uncertainty about what we know. And I don't know if the public really understands this fundamental issue, and if we have been very good on our side of the coin. I look at both sides of the equation here, both the transmitters and the receivers. They can both have flaws in them, and it's up to us to try to. I've been spending a lot more time lately in the social sciences, trying to understand this issue of how minds work. I've always had a lot of interest in that, and unless we sort of incorporate what we find out about that, we may continue to kind of blithely go on thinking that we're having an effect, or having an effect different than what we really are having. So this really really takes having an open mind about this, and on all sides, even including on the scientific side and the meteorological community and the climatological community, being willing to change our minds about how we go about doing things, or just even what we believe about what is really taking place in this transaction between people.